Okay, let's jump right into this. Today, we're looking at a famous biblical story right alongside a piece of history that's been, well, pretty much forgotten. We have two ancient texts, and they're both obsessed with the same thing: Egyptian cattle. One tells a story of divine judgment, the other of human care. We're going to start with a moment of just absolute catastrophe from the book of Exodus. This one sentence describes an event that would have brought an entire civilization to its knees, basically overnight. It really sets the stage for a dramatic story about immense power.
So this wasn't some random event. This was the fifth plague God sent to Egypt, and it was a direct response to Pharaoh's stubborn refusal to free the Israelites. It came right after plagues of blood, frogs, gnats, and flies. You can see the pressure just ramping up.
And the message Pharaoh got? It couldn't have been clearer. A very severe pestilence was coming. The command was simple, but Pharaoh's heart, as the story goes, was unyielding, and that led directly to this absolutely devastating consequence.
Now look at the list of what was targeted. We're talking horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, goats, the whole shebang. This wasn't a random disease. This was a surgical strike against the very engines of the Egyptian state, its economy, its military, its whole way of life.
To really get the sheer impact of this, you have to understand that these animals were so much more than just, well, livestock. Losing them wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a genuine existential threat. I mean, just think about it. Horses, that was their military power, the engines for their famous chariots. Donkeys and camels, that was their entire supply chain, their trade network. And cattle, well, cattle were everything for farming, for food. Losing all of that at once would have brought Egypt to a dead stop. But you know, this went even deeper than economics. It was a direct challenge to their gods. By striking down the cattle, this plague was basically showing power over deities like Hathor and Apis, the very gods who are supposed to protect them. So this was a theological statement just as much as a physical one. But here's where the story takes a really sharp turn. There's a crucial twist here that makes it all the more mysterious and really isolates the Egyptians in their suffering. Because this wasn't some random, out-of-control disease. No, it was surgically precise. Which, of course, brings up a massive question. If all the Egyptian livestock died, what about the animals owned by the enslaved Israelites? It's a detail that forces Pharaoh, and us really, to face just how targeted this plague was. And the answer is just so stark and absolute. Zero. Not a single one, not one animal belonging to the Israelites perished. The plague drew a clear line in the sand, sparing everything in the land of Goshen where they lived.
So you'd think that would be enough, right? I mean, this is the critical part. Pharaoh sends his own people to investigate. They come back and confirm it. They see the miracle with their own eyes. And still, the text says his heart was hardened and he refused.
Okay, so now let's shift gears completely. We've seen the story of divine intervention. Now let's look at a totally different kind of evidence, one that builds a much more complete picture of what ancient Egypt was actually like. That plague was a huge, supernatural catastrophe. But let's bring it way down to the micro level. What happened on a normal Tuesday, when it wasn't a national plague, but just one single bull got sick? How did the Egyptians handle that? Well, the answer lies in this absolutely incredible artifact, the Kahun veterinary papyrus. What this shows us is that the ancient Egyptians didn't just worship their cattle, they were actively studying them and developing methods to treat their illnesses. And what's so amazing about this timeline is that it shows us that centuries before the traditional time of the Exodus, Egyptians already had a sophisticated, written-down system for taking care of their animals. This wasn't just primitive guesswork. This was documented medical practice. I mean, get this. The papyrus preserves a fascinating case study. It's an eye examination of a bull with an airborne disease. Think about that. They were observing symptoms and connecting them to a specific type of illness. They weren't just guessing, they were diagnosing. And the actual treatment they followed, it's so methodical. They diagnose based on clear symptoms, they try to cool the animal down, they apply some herbal rubs, and they even perform a kind of bloodletting. This wasn't magic, this was medicine, based on the best knowledge they had. And yet after all that work, after all their knowledge, this is the prognosis. It will die from it or it will live from it. There's this deep uncertainty. It's such a powerful, human contrast to the absolute, terrifying finality of the plague in Exodus. Here, humans are doing everything they can, but the outcome is still a total mystery.
So, what do we do with these two completely different stories, both centered on the exact same vital animal? On the one hand, a supernatural horror story. On the other, a clinical medical report.
When you put them side by side like this, the contrast is just wild. In the Exodus account, the cause is the divine plague. In the papyrus, it's an airborne disease. In one, humans are helpless spectators. In the other, they're active, hands-on caregivers. The scale, the outcome, everything is different.
What's so fascinating is that both of these narratives, in our own unique way, revealed just how profoundly significant these animals were. They were important enough to be the target of divine punishment and important enough to be the subject of dedicated medical care. Together, they just paint a much richer picture of life in ancient Egypt.
And that really just leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on. You have the epic story of a nation-shattering plague, and you have the quiet, clinical note of a long-dead veterinarian trying to save just one animal. Which one do you think gives us a clearer glimpse into the real world of the ancient Egyptians?